Being the fastest quarterback you've never seen. I'll be right back. There's no quicker way to get into DFS. Play Super Draft today and see for yourself.
We're behind. They're all fired up. What we got to do? First place, our defense has got to go out there and take the ball. Then when we get the ball, we got to have 11 people that's going to do their job and try to score every time you get the football. If we do that, we'll be all right. That will be all right.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Football University with me, Matt Cadell, on this Monday, where we talk anything and everything football related, and we find a way to bring it back to Alabama. So hope y'all had a great, enjoyable weekend. Speaking of crazy, it was a crazy weekend. We had NFL draft news, quarterback Bama news. So we're going to get in all of that. But first, speaking of Bama fans, roll tide rolls. We got a lot of Bama fans and Georgia fans running at the mouth. So I'm going to bring in one of Bama's biggest fans to kind of get things started, who's a true Bama fan in the state of Georgia. RTR to everybody, Joey Lozada. Joey, what's going on? How are you today, brother?
Man, it's a great day to be alive. Matt Cadell, I've never said this publicly. Thank you for that catch in 2007 against Arkansas.
You're funny, man.
That was a great day to be an Alabama fan, and all because of you. Look, my connection's a little scratchy here, so if something happens to the internet connection, I apologize. But stuff needed to be said because I've been noticing a lot of stuff that's been going on this show, on Rolling with the Tide, with Nick Saban Jr. show. So I wanted to address something. So I got to take you back a couple of years, about 2007, 2008. Nick Saban comes along, and all my life, I never had a problem with a Georgia fan. Never had a problem with them. I always kind of rooted for Georgia. Not that I was a fan of them, but I always rooted for them. When they won a national championship, I remember Georgia fans called me up. Hey, man, sorry about your team losing. And I was like, hey, man, it's cool. I'm glad Georgia won a national championship. You know what? You waited 40-something years. I know how hard it is as an Alabama fan to wait for a national championship. I know. I waited from 92 to 2009. It was hard. I was there 6 years. Auburn beating Alabama. Matt, you know about that. I was there when Tyrone Prothro got hurt. I was there when Marvin Constant stopped Josh Booty at the goal line. And the LSU game, losing one of the best linebackers of all time. I was there. I saw all the drama. I saw the probations. Now, Georgia fans, you win. How do I say this properly? Because I want to try to say it PG. I want to keep it clean. But, however, the Joester's back on the CTS to scratch a major itch. So listen up, puppies, because I'm about to make you my bitch. I want you to understand one thing. You are right now known better than the Clemson Tigers. So all this trash talking and all this keyboard warrior stuff that you're doing, it's not necessary. It's really not. Be happy about the national championships that you're winning right now.
Agreed.
Okay? And you're probably a very good chance could make history to be the first ever three-peat national champions. This could be you. Be happy. Be humble. Have some class.
They're too
Stop.
concerned with Alabama, it seems like.
They're too concerned. You're acting like a bunch of Auburn Tigers right now. That's what you're acting like right now. It's so easy to get on the keyboard. Georgia, Alabama sucks, and talk all the trash you won't. But when you come into an Alabama fan, hey, roll tide. You're acting like a B, okay? You're acting like a B. Listen, to all you ugly hermaphrodites right now who are tapping on the keyboard, right? Go Georgia, go Dogs. Nobody's noticing. You got to understand this. You waited 40-something years to win a national championship. Now you got 2 national championships right here. Out of 3 national championships in my lifetime I've seen, I don't even know the first one if I was alive. But you won 3 national championships. You understand that Princeton, Yale, Ohio State, Michigan,
all those schools
Harvard,
national championships back then.
All these people won more national championships than your team has.
Yeah.
You're not prestigious. You're the Clemson Tigers. You're the Auburn Tigers right now. They
won 3.
You don't have 18. You don't have 18 national championships. Hell, it's so bad right now that people are just running on to the Georgia fan base, and like Auburn fans, they don't even know they have a new head coach. They still think they got freaking
Carson,
whoever, Kirby.
Carson.
Yeah, they still think they got that guy from 2010, Dick, whatever his name was. Gene Chizik. They still think Cam Newton is their quarterback. So my advice to you Georgia fans right now, to the Georgia fans right now on the show, talking trash. 1, be happy that you're winning national championships. I'm happy for you. I really am. You know what? Tennessee, Florida, Auburn. You know, the only thing good that ever came out of Tennessee was the Ministry of Defense, Reggie White. God bless his soul. One of my all-time heroes. However, Auburn can kiss my ass. Florida, if you start being humble like you've been humbled, I may consider you back in my good graces. But in the early 2000s, y'all are a bunch of you know what. But to you Georgia fans right now, this is coming from the founder, the owner of the CTS. I want you to understand this. You haven't proved nothing. You haven't shown nothing. You haven't done nothing. You won 2 national championships. Congratulations. Be happy with it. But as of right now, keep in mind this. You're always going to be behind Alabama. You're never going to be above Alabama. You're not going to win 16 national championships in the near future. Be happy with the championships you have. Be happy that you got a great coach. Be happy that you got a great program, and shut the fuck up. And with that said, Matt, welcome to Football University. I'm out. Deuces.
Joey Lozada answering the Georgia fans with a passionate speech. So shouts out to Joey. But yeah, the Georgia fans, man, this whole Georgia-Alabama rivalry that has ensued this offseason has been kind of crazy. So Joey wanted to speak his mind about the Georgia fans. So we know it's been so much banter back and forth.
Oh, whoa. Actually, you asked me to come on.
Oh, yeah.
I told you no. I said before the show, I said, are you ready for this? Are you sure? I'm bringing back the Joester. And you was like, yeah, bring back the Joester. Okay, well, the Joester just showed up. You have a good day.
Yeah, it's been so much banter. Georgia fans, Bama fans, especially from the draft this past week. It is going crazy. So I'm glad we keep hopefully more Georgia fans come back in the student section. Hopefully they're not scared off from Joey. But yeah, so let's get back to football university. We're gonna get back to what Joey was talking about, the Georgia situation and how Georgia's Bama's comparable. But let's start with Alabama football. Let's go with the crazy news this past weekend. Alabama football quarterback update. So hit that like, subscribe button. All the fans out there in the student section, please hit that like, subscribe button. So crazy football news, and I want to address it up front. So if you weren't paying attention, we just had A-Day, and, still the quarterback race is still a race. It's still a competition. Nobody kind of separated themselves, whether it's Simpson or Milroe. So big news. Tyler Buchner, the quarterback from Notre Dame, has got in the transfer portal first from Notre Dame. He has, and immediately all the people were saying he has a relationship with Tommy Rees. Could there be an opportunity he comes to Tuscaloosa? And my initial reaction when I heard it, I was like, listen, we got Milroe, we got Simpson. We don't need to get in the portal. We got Dylan Lonergan, all that good stuff. And I was like, listen, we do not need a transfer portal quarterback. That's my initial reaction. But as time started to settle, he eventually committed to the University of Alabama. And I thought it was so interesting. All this, Bama basically won the whole week when it comes to college football and NFL football. So the Tyler Buchner news broke on draft day, and I thought that was so interesting. So I want to get your thoughts on him committing to Alabama, being in the QB race. And it made me bring up first few points. And this is what we do at Football University. With the addition of Tyler Buchner at the QB race, you now have an intense race. It's like Coach Saban said, oh, y'all don't want to take the next step. I think this is a move by Coach Saban to really intensify the QB competition and not keep Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson on their heels, on their laurels. Like somebody has got to step up. And I think Coach Saban adding Tyler Buchner to this quarterback race has really intensified this quarterback competition. We are off to the races. And it made me think about, listen, Tyler Buchner, just him coming in, having the relationship with Tommy Rees, being the new offensive coordinator, one thing could happen. One thing that I think could be beneficial, he can understand the lingo of what Tommy Rees, how he wants to run his system. And maybe that kind of pushes, Milroe or Simpson, to really kind of breaks it down a lot easier. Seeing another example of how to run Tommy Rees Simpson, that could be beneficial. Also, him coming in, and I know a lot of people are saying, oh, this is not a wow QB. A lot of people saying he's not that great. I get it, but you have to remember this guy was playing at Notre Dame. He did not have a Kendrick Law. He did not have Isaiah Bond, a Kobe Prentice. He is coming to offensive personnel where it is so many playmakers all around the system. So the only thing that we need you to do from a quarterback standpoint is be a leader, distribute the ball accurately, have poise, get us in the right play, get us in the right front. Don't turn the ball over, convert first downs. Don't, I said don't fumble, distribute the ball accurately, but let's convert first downs. Let's get as many touchdowns as possible. So, once I, had time to settle on and hear what Saban says, he did say that, he does want competition, and he did feel like that the quarterbacks, really didn't separate themselves. So that's my whole 2 cents. And it got me thinking about Coach Saban. Like, listen, Coach Saban this is kind of the Coach Saban I've been waiting to see. The past couple of years, especially last year, it seems like, he was, I don't want to say going through the motions, but we didn't see that fire, that militant, that more anal Saban that we're used to having. And, you know, when him making this move, having Tyler Buchner come into the quarterback room to already quarterback heavy competition, to me, this is letting me know that Saban is back to being Saban. He is not wasting any time. He is not wasting any time, and he's ready to win a national championship right now. So I'm going to pause right there, but I wanted to address the situation. Let's get in the student section real quick. Shouts out to Stephen Hicks. He says he didn't have the Bama standard either. He says Ty's out for another 3 or 4 weeks. Hopefully he'll be back ready to play. Speaking of Ty Sims, he did hurt himself in the 8A game. I think he had something with his hand hit the helmet. But another upside about Ty Simpson, he did play through it. So, you know, showing what type of competitive nature he has. So it's going to be interesting. I just think, listen, Coach Saban having Tyler Buchner in this quarterback competition is him lighting the fire in all the other quarterbacks and setting the tone in the program. Listen, I'm playing the best guy. We need to be effective this year, and I'm trying to win the national championship this year. He is not wasting time on bad QB play. So I had to get out there. And at the end of the day, trust Saban. We're nothing but fans. You know, Saban is thinking about business, having the winning team on the line. He wants a quarterback that just wants to distribute the ball, get us in the right play, have poise, have accuracy, not turn the ball over, take ownership, have leadership, have character, have the right work ethic with the receivers, have the right demeanor, all those things to really help take our offense to the next level. So that's my 2 cents. Let's stay in the student section. Stephen Hicks has a great point saying Pollock made Saban remember who he is. I agree with you, Stephen Hicks. I think we always refer to this point back at Football University. Speaking of Georgia fans, we had Joey talking about passion. I'm passionate because Georgia fans always, in the comments, whatever Alabama do, they have to stay in the comments. So we had to address this Alabama-Georgia back and forth. When Coach Saban went to the national championship and watched Georgia win the national championship in SoFi Stadium in LA, being able to, sit there and, basically take it, especially with David Pollock told him, hey, you got to admit Georgia's the best program in the country. And that I think at that moment, it lit a fire in Coach Saban internally. And so I'm actually glad to see this type of defense. And Jeff Stapleton, thank you for this comment, which brings me to my next point. I mentioned Tyler Buchner edition, how Coach Saban, is showing, he's got that mentality where I need guys to do their job, get the job done. Listen, and you got to think of it how Saban's trying to win the Natty now. And Jeff Stapleton brought the great point right here. He's talking about people down our defense and our offensive line. That's where it starts up front. And I think that has something to do with what Coach Saban is kind of getting back to the old Coach Saban. Coming off A-Day, you look at our defense, we had, to me, one of the best defenses, led by the leadership of Kevin Steele, Robert Bala, Freddie Roach, T-Rob, Coach Saban. We seem like we're in the right scheme defensively. Run fits, pass fits, mixing coverages, being physical at the point of the attack, leverage, hitting deep offensive back, running backs back. You look at Coach Saban coming out the spring, he's like, I got my defense. I got my D coordinator. Check. We're physical up front on both ends with the offensive line. We're running the ball. He's got big offensive line. He's probably like 12, 14 deep offensive line. So he's physical up front. He's great defensive line. He's physical on the defensive end. So he's got the defense. He's physical in the trenches. And he's got the running backs. And he's got the weapon outside. Coach Saban is now saying, listen, since I have everything, I need to have that quarterback that's going to take us to the next level and have the right work ethic and right demeanor. And right now, him adding Tyler Buchner to this quarterback competition intensified it. And it's going to be interesting to see who steps out and takes the leadership role for Alabama to take the next step. So had to bring that up. So let's stay in the student section before I get to my next topic. 60 says, Matt, what is Derek King Henry's status after the draft? Is he done with? I don't think he's done with. We're going to talk about the draft, but let's address it right here. This could be a good segue to the NFL draft, talking about Derek Henry, the legendary Alabama back. You look at Derek Henry, the Tennessee Titans drafted Todd Spears in the 3rd round, I believe, as kind of a rotational piece for Derek Henry. There were some Derek Henry rumors. I know a couple times last week people said, maybe the Eagles or the Buffalo Bills, different types of teams might be interested in acquiring Derek King Henry's talents, but he's still, right now that I know, he's still a Tennessee Titan. I don't see him getting traded, but I think them adding Todd Spears out of Tulane gives them a different dynamic offensively. We know they acquired Will Levis. I got my takes on that. I will discuss it later, but as of right now, Derek Henry is a Tennessee Titan. So let's go to my next topic. And we talked about how Alabama basically won the draft last week. And let's talk about it. I talk about the draft being the Bryce Young Invitational. And what a day. To me, this is not an underrated, but such a great holiday for Alabama football fans when we get to celebrate our Alabama greats making the transition into the NFL. And what better way to do it on draft night in Kansas City. Bryce Young, Alabama having probably potentially the top 2 picks come off the board. And the excitement, Bryce Young's there with his family in Kansas City. He has the Dior. He's looking very nice. Then Coach Saban comes out with the pink as well. So Saban's very sharp. And I'm like, wow, what a day for Alabama. I mean, Alabama basically just won the day. And I want to not only do we win the day with Bryce Young being the number 1 pick, but another sneaky, exciting news. The Houston Texans, led by D'Amico Ryans, a former teammate of mine, Alabama alum, smart, intelligent brother, out of Jesselyn, Bessemer, Alabama, who is now the head coach of the Houston Texans. They draft C.J. Stroud with the number 2 pick, and they come up and trade for Will Anderson at number 3. I thought that was beautiful, magnificent by D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio in their draft, building up their roster in the Houston Texans, being able to get 2 top players. And it just shows, when Will Anderson got the call, he shouted out Bama South High and it's an Alabama thing and Roll Tides. And so it's just such an Alabama way that Alabama continued to win draft day. I mean, you had Coach Saban, you had Bryce going to Carolina, the Panthers, the excitement. Bryce, Alabama continued to win the day. So on draft day. And so not only do we win the day with Coach Saban and Bryce and Will Anderson, and, I wanted to bring this point up. To me, I still think, and I know to get in the draft, break down the numbers, Alabama had 10 draft picks. Georgia had 10 draft picks. Obviously, the SEC led. The Big Ten came in second. But to me, I still think Alabama puts on the better product in the NFL. Bama players tend to be a little bit more polished, more refined. Not to say everybody's perfect, but I think Alabama prepares their players to produce at an elite level in the NFL. I mean, you look at all the all-pro teams, you look at the rookies last year, I think Alabama still produces the best talent, and they are at a premium. So we'll pause right there for my NFL draft topic. So let's go into the student section. Stephen Hicks says, listen, going back to Alabama, we got all the talent in the world. Only thing we got to do is bring out. Like I said, I think Coach Saban is able to get the right coordinators. Tommy Rees, we don't have Bill O'Brien, we don't have Pete Golden. We're able to play dominant football. So William Bryan says Derek Henry would be a great strength and conditioning coach for Bama. Yeah, I would love it too. Hopefully he can bring that Scott Cochran energy juice that Coach Cochran used to bring. So 60 says, let's get back to the quarterback talk. He says, rumor has it Coach Saban's down his quarterbacks. What's the new word on the subject? sorry, off your current subject. No, we discussed it first, 6-0. Having the addition of Tyler Buchner, the Notre Dame quarterback, I think for me, it just shows that Saban's, I don't want to say he's not doubting his quarterbacks, but I think looking at the spring game, we kind of didn't put our best foot forward. I addressed some of those issues last week. I thought the receivers let the quarterbacks down, and I don't think the quarterbacks kind of helped the receivers. So we were missing on accuracy. We had plenty of turnovers. So, 8A, you want to kind of put one of your best foot forwards, but I think Coach Saban is looking at the addition of Tyler Buchner to really up the ante, really intensify this quarterback race. And so it's going to be interesting to see who takes on that leadership role, that ownership role with the offense, with the receivers, distributing ball, getting us in the right play, having good poise, having good accuracy, like Bryce Young did, in the past for our offense. So I think that was, I just think that's what Coach Saban is discussing, to your point, 6-0. So Stephen Hicks says, we all know Coach Saban's hates losing. No way he's going to let Kirby, get 3. Listen, respect to Kirby. I got to give them their props. They won the last 2 national championships. But, man, like I said earlier, I think David Pollock lit a fire internally in Coach Saban. I'm kind of liking how Coach Saban is. I like the fiery. I like the more anal, the more militant Coach Saban. So, Coach Saban, I know we trust you. You're going to make the right decision when it comes to the quarterbacks. So you have a lot of options to pick for them. So Joe Stapleton again says, Bama got rid of our biggest problems, Bill and Pete, and that was the weakest link. I agree. I mean, speaking of Bill and Pete, you actually lead me to my next point. Coming off the draft, seeing Alabama have Will Anderson, 10 draft picks, Will Anderson, Bryce Young, Jahmyr Gibbs, Tyler Steen, Brian Branch, who I'll discuss later, having all this NFL talent and not coming with a national championship, to me, that shows you how bad Bill and Pete were at their game plans, being coordinators, leading these units. To me, I think that they dropped the ball schematically and just being football, understanding football, making it too difficult. It was just, they were the weakest link, to your point. So that, to me, that was one note. I was like, man, we had all this NFL talent. We didn't come away with not one national championship. So I don't know. That was my 2 cents. Let's stay in the student section. Y'all are on point. 6-0 says, Matt, you're 100%. We just can't blame it all on QBs. Our receivers need to step up and produce too. Like I said, I think Coach Saban, after Tyler Buchner came, he entered College Game Day was, of course, at the NFL draft, and you had Pollock and Herb Street and Marcus Spears, all them there, your College Game Day guys, and Coach Saban addressed it right then and there. Reese Davis asked the question for Coach Saban, and Coach Saban said, listen, we gave those quarterbacks opportunities to separate themselves this spring. Nobody kind of really separated themselves, and Saban looked at it as an opportunity for him to really intensify this quarterback competition and add a player that can really help us hopefully either push the other guys or get us to winning football on the offensive side. So let's keep it going in the student section. Y'all are on it. Icebox says, nail it on the head. I listen. I think I'm glad to see this type of Coach Saban, kind of more like nonchalant, more business-like, ready. It kind of reminds me shades of early Coach Saban when he was at Alabama. So Coach Saban, if you're out there, keep it up. We know we have trust in you. We know you're going to make the best decisions. So we talked about the quarterback addition of Buchner, Tommy Rees, how it ups the stakes. It's really competitive. I think still the key points for the quarterback race, obviously leadership, who's going to take ownership, but who can get us in the right play, who can get us in the best front, who can distribute the ball accurately, who has the best poise, who's energetic, who's a great leader. I think you hear so much great things about Bryce Young, what separated himself. And let's just talk about Bryce. Bryce Young basically is the standard. And so Coach Saban is seeing that standard of Bryce Young. He doesn't want to have a drop off. He wants to be able to be dominant in the offensive. And he puts a lot of pressure on his quarterback to be the coach on the field, to make sure players know where to go to get us in the right fits. And so I think that, you look at Bryce Young, he has all those intangibles. Bryce Young, leadership-wise, you saw the video. Oh, another reason why Alabama won the draft. Did you see the video of the football team together watching the draft in the football complex in Tuscaloosa as a team? I thought that meant a lot for the team development. Anything you can do together as a team, more team activities, I think that all builds chemistry, camaraderie within the team, and that helps you have some of the successful teams. But having that, everybody was so excited for Bryce Young. Bryce Young was that guy going number one. So I got my next notes before we go to my next topic. So like I said, Coach Saban with the Tyler Buchner news, he is coming for a national championship, and he is not wasting any time. That was my first thought. Like you said, I think our quarterbacks are fine. I do think, like I said last week, I think Miro needs to work on accuracy, confidence, delivering the ball accurately, building rapport with the receivers. And in return, receivers need to be working with the quarterbacks, catching the ball, building rapport, having rhythm, having better timing, knowing, looking the ball in, working on catching the ball. So I think that whoever has, both units, the quarterbacks and the receivers, need to take ownership and have the right demeanor and work ethic to get it ironed out. That way we can go to the next level and we can win a national championship and talk bad and prevent Georgia from winning the 3-peat. So I think that would make every Alabama fan so happy. So I discussed Coach Saban, Tyler Buchner, Alabama players. We discussed the Georgia players being drafted. So about the draft, I wanted to discuss it. I talked about D'Amico Ryans. I thought D'Amico, and let's talk about the Houston Texans. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, how I thought D'Amico Ryans, even more highlighted, enhanced Alabama winning the draft day. D'Amico is a smart, intelligent guy, and he was so savvy. He did not give anybody any information leading up to the draft, and he was able to nab the 2 and 3 picks. He's gotten his franchise quarterback, and now he's got his pass rusher, his Nick Bosa, somebody he can develop into being dominant on the defensive end. So I wanted to shout out D'Amico Ryans and the Houston Texans. And I thought the Houston Texans actually won their division in the AFC South. With the draft, with the moves that they made. They had the number 2 pick, traded up for Will Anderson with the number 3 pick. You look in that division, Houston Texans, Tennessee Titans, Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars. We know Jacksonville's, they were in the playoffs last year, but compared to the other teams, the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans, I think the Houston Texans made the biggest impact. They made the best moves. They got a better quarterback, in my opinion, a more now-ready quarterback than the Indianapolis Colts, their distant rivalry, and they got an elite pass rusher. So I think they separated themselves from the Colts and definitely from the Tennessee Titans. So shouts out to D'Amico Ryans. I thought he had an excellent first draft with him and Nick Caserio. Another thing about the draft, Jahmyr Gibbs. So I know we got a lot of Falcons fans out here. Bijan Robinson, the elite running back out of Texas, went number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. And I said this, if you've been paying attention to Football University the past couple episodes, I've been raving about Jahmyr Gibbs. And I said, if Bijan Robinson comes off the board early, it's going to push Jahmyr Gibbs' stock even up higher. So we got a few Falcons fans, and I thought the Falcons had a decent draft. But we'll discuss the division, you know, how I rate GMs. But listen, that with the Falcons get Bijan Robinson at 8, which, you know, I think that fits the Atlanta Falcons style. You know, they like to run the ball. They drafted DeMarco Hellams in the 7th round later. So I think they made a lot of noise. I still think they need a quarterback. But with Bijan Robinson going number 8 to the Falcons, listen, the Detroit Lions, listen, they made a Beer Kansas Batty said, the Falcons are crazy. They let Jalen Carter go. Listen, I get it. I feel you. But let me talk about Gibbs real quick. You know, Gibbs, I'll come back to this. Gibbs was the number 2 running back off the board. And the Detroit Lions, listen, the Detroit Lions made a lot of noise, led by Brad Holmes. You know, Dan Campbell's the head coach. They drafted Jameson Williams last year. So they're kind of a young team. And they saw him, Jahmyr Gibbs, at 12, probably as the best player on their board at that moment. And they went and got him. And so shouts out to Jahmyr Gibbs, who is a dynamic playmaker with the ball, catching receiver, short quarter, you know, kind of like McCaffrey, but more so, I believe, more so like Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook type of hybrid, if I had to do my comps. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about Gibbs. And since we're talking about the Detroit Lions and them making moves, can I shout out Brian Branch? To me, Brian Branch, this was another reason why Alabama solidified winning draft day. Brian Branch was there the first night for the draft. His name was not called, but unlike other players, you know, they left, they didn't show up on day 2. Brian Branch, in adversity, stayed there, had his moment, got drafted. But to me, that shows you a different type of mentality and what type of character Brian Branch has, how to face in a tough, adverse situation, but to still to have the desire to still have your moment and come out there and, you know, not wavering, still believing that you're still a top product. To me, Brian Branch, I thought he won day 2, still having his moment, enduring tough times, adverse times. Listen, Brian Branch is my new favorite, and I think he's got a great fit with the Detroit Lions. I thought Brian Branch, he went at 45, but I was shocked he went all the way to 45. I just knew, you know, when he didn't go 10 to, I believe the Philadelphia Eagles traded up to 9 to get Jalen Carter, which I think is a good pick for the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. But, you know, I kind of do think the Eagles got a little too Georgia happy, if that makes sense. But I get it. You do want to get the best players on board. But I thought Brian Branch should have been with that 30th pick instead of getting another edge rusher in Nolan Smith. And I know you want to get young talent. They might have wanted to get younger on the defensive end. But if I'm Eagles fly, you just traded away C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I'm going to get a weapon, Swiss Army knife, in Brian Branch at that 30th pick right there. But, you know, it is what it is. But I think God made it a way for Brian Branch to be in the right situation. So I want to shout out Brian Branch, him showing what type of character he has, what type of perseverance he has, the way to endure, his endurance, not being drafted the first day, but then being able to come back the next day and have this moment. So let's go to Icebox says, stop it, man. I'm at war with Detroit fans up here. So shouts out to Icebox. I guess he's up there in Motor City up there in Detroit with all those Lions fans out there. So, we got the Eagles fly in there. So Fly Eagles fly on the road to victory. So speaking of the Eagles and Alabama football and Georgia football, and I mentioned early, Alabama had 10 draft picks. Georgia had 10 draft picks. Big news coming out of Philly. I mean, Philly drafted Jalen Carter at number 9, which I thought was a good pick because you can't, looking at the film, having a defensive tackle that can rush the passer from the middle. You look at Fletcher Cox; he's kind of getting up in age, and Dominican Sue, those type of guys. I thought the Jalen Carter pick was a good pick, but Cindy Reed says roll Philly dogs. But Georgia, to my point, Florida went and got nothing but Georgia players after that. They got Jalen Carter. They got Nolan Smith. They ended up drafting Kelly Ringo. I mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs going to Detroit Lions. Once that draft happened, the next day, Swift gets traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's another weapon, former Georgia Bulldog. So people were saying, great point right here. People were saying Eagles, Bama offense, and UGA defense. Shouts out to Howie Roseman. I think, a lot of people are giving him a lot of credit. I think at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with drafting SEC guys. My thing is, I didn't want Howie Roseman to get caught up in looking at Georgia players, but thinking you're getting Alabama player production. You think you're getting another Jalen Hurts or a Devontae Smith, because the reason I say this, and I'm not trying to rub anybody the wrong way, they drafted Jordan Davis last year. He didn't really produce like that. Nakobe Dean, he didn't really produce like that. And so you loaded up on these players that might not have the production like Devontae Smith or Jalen Hurts. So you just hope that production lines up with the player. And, I think the Eagles will be fine. They got so much talent. Howie Roseman, listen, I looked at his undrafted free agents that he signed. He signed Eli Ricks, which I think is probably going to be one of the steals of the draft, him going undrafted free agent. I mean, you're getting a top 10 corner undrafted free agent. I think he's going to beat out somebody. Obviously, Darius Slay is going to be on the other side, but he's going to be another rotation piece that can really make things happen. So shouts out to Eli Ricks. I think he's going to have a great opportunity in that Philadelphia locker room up there in Philly. Fly, Eagles, fly in the link. Lori Cadell said, Georgia doesn't have the Bama standard. You're right. The Bama standard, like I said, Bama won the draft day. I mean, I talked about Brian Branch. You looked at D'Amico. You look at Will Anderson. You look at Bryce Young. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, it was just like, and the tape, whenever you look at the Bama play and the level, another thing that separates Alabama players, the level of excitement that NFL franchises and fan bases get for Alabama players, i.e. Bryce Young. You look at Bryce Young. I mean, Carolina didn't show their hand. They stayed, kind of discreet, but everybody was saying it's going to be Bryce Young. I mean, they had a draft party, and now you see all the fan reactions of how excited they were to get Bryce Young up there in Charlotte, North Carolina. You look at the Houston Texans. I mean, they draft C.J. Stroud with the second pick, and then the Arizona Cardinals on the clock. And then they say, 2 minutes later, breaking news comes in. The Arizona Cardinals had traded out, and the Houston Texans come up, and then Houston Texans is like, we're going to get Will Anderson, and the level of excitement from Houston Texans fans. I haven't seen Texans fan this excited in Houston in such a long time. So listen, to me, that what separates Alabama players from other players, the level of excitement these fan bases get for Alabama players. So to your point, that just shows you the Bama standard. So let's stay in the student section. Did I hear right that Nick Bosa is a Houston Texan now, man? No, Nick Bosa is not a Houston Texan. I was saying D'Amico Ryans, him being the #1 defensive coordinator last year, coming from that vaunted San Francisco 49er defense, with him a draft trading up for Will Anderson, he now has his Nick Bosa, somebody he can train to come off the edge and really get after the quarterback. That's what I was making at that point, Jeff Stapleton, right there. So we've talked about some of everything. So shout out to the student section. This is what we do here at Football University. We got some Eagles fans in here. They said AJ Brown. Let's stay on the Eagles. Can we park right there? And this is my only 2 cents about Howie Roseman and the draft. I feel like he still needed to address the receiver position. Now he did sign Hazelwood to a free agent contract. But I felt like you look at A.J. Brown, you look at Devontae Smith, you look at Jalen Hurts, you just made him the highest paid quarterback in history. You look at, Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield. You just acquired Swift. I mean, you got Slay on the defensive end. I still think that the Howie Roseman should have got a receiver to fill in for that Quez Watkins. Because I feel like you still need a third receiver opposite of Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert. Jalen Hurts still needs a third option. I feel like Howie Roseman didn't really address that. But that's what I wanted to say here at Football University. Darren Kelly. Shouts out to Darren Kelly. What about my Jets? Shouts out to the Jets, Darren. We know the Jets got Jets, Jets. The Jets got Aaron Rodgers, 12, the quarterback out of Green Bay. And I think, listen, the Jets are going to be perfectly fine. They got the defense. They got a Super Bowl defense led by Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, C.J. Mosley. But listen, they were just a quarterback away. We said, Zach Wilson, he was not it. He was not. So for them to acquire, Aaron Rodgers, that experience, a Hall of Fame quarterback, I think the Jets are trending in the right direction in the AFC East. But I still think the Miami Dolphins are kind of ahead, led by Tua, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard. Like, Miami Dolphins are coming, and I think Tua's going to try to make that step like Jalen Hurts did and get the Dolphins to the Super Bowl. So let's stay in the student section. Greg said, do you like A.J. Brown? Of course, A.J. Brown is a beast, the receiver coming out of Ole Miss. Ole Miss had a great run of receivers, DK Metcalf. A.J. Brown's a beast. He rocks them 1-1-11, so I really like him about that. But yeah, A.J. Brown, he's a beast. But Devontae is my guy, Smitty. I mean, he's just, he's not the biggest receiver, but he just makes plays after plays after plays. So shouts out to the Eagles fans in here. Let's stay. Here they go. The dog fans have arrived. I told you the dog fans. So shouts out to the dog fans in the student section. So yeah, so we talked about the Eagles. We talked about the Dolphins. We talked about the Niners. We talked about the Texans. We talked about everybody. Let's see. Great comment right here. Lori Cadell says, we get to see if jiu-jitsu really works for Tua. I don't know yet. I think that's a great point. Talking about the AFC East, Aaron Rodgers, coming into that division, automatically it's kind of a three-headed monster between the AFC East, between the Jets, the Bills, and the Dolphins. And I think Tua, him being able to work on, some body leverage, being able to fall or, not be be in control, body contortions, those type of things, leverage, being able to have soft impact. I think hopefully that helps Tua this year. So I think Tua, like I said, I think he can take that next step and take the Dolphins to the Super Bowl. And if he gets his jiu-jitsu down pat and, he's able to not have concussions, NFL got a new quarterback helmet. So hopefully that helps. I think Tua's sky's the limit. Tua can take the Dolphins to the Super Bowl. But it's going to be tough with the Bills led by Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers in that division. So let's stay in the student section. Y'all are going crazy. Just 60 says, Niners have great coaching staff. They will develop players. Yeah, they do. Shouts out to the Niners. They drafted Cameron Latu in the 3rd round. I think that's a good fit. I feel like John Lynch, those guys, Kyle Shanahan, they know how to acquire talent. Being former players, they know how to evaluate talent. So I think Cameron Latu going to the San Francisco 49ers is a good lick. He can learn from Kittle. You can line him up in fullback, H-back, detached from the line of scrimmage. So I think that gives Kyle Shanahan a lot of options in that San Francisco 49ers offense on the Bay Area with Brock Purdy. When he comes back healthy, you don't know if it's going to be Trey Lance. You don't know what's it going to be. But Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, I mentioned earlier, Deebo Samuel, who I'm a big fan of, I think is going to be a good addition. So shout out to the Niners fans. Let's go to the Dog fans. He said, who's going to beat my Dogs? Nobody. You know, I think the Dogs, I don't know who their quarterback is going to be this year. You have to tell me more about it, King Brian. You know, it's Alabama over here. But I think the Dogs will be fine this year. You know, this year is the 12-team playoff. But listen, I think South Carolina is going to be sneaky good. I don't think nobody's, you know, they have Spencer Rattler coming back as a QB. I don't think people are giving them a lot of credit. So don't be surprised about Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks and Tennessee. I think Tennessee, but I still think it's Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina kind of is going to come out the East this year. So shout out to the Dog fans in the student section. Let's stay here. Y'all are on it. What do you think about Bama QBs? I think we're going to be okay. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay because we got Coach Saban as our head coach. At the end of the day, I trust Saban. Whatever the head man wants to come out and do, I trust the head man. I think he's going to make the right decision, whether it was the national championship versus those Bulldogs that we're talking about. When he pulled Jalen Hurts and put it into it, we were able to win that national championship. He able to start Bryce, Mac Jones. You know, Coach Saban's going to make the right decision when it comes to the quarterback decision. I think we're going to be fine because, like I said earlier, Saban's got his defense. He's got his running backs. He's got his big up front. He's got his physical mentality, his physical game plan. He's big on the defensive line. Listen, I think Saban's looking to make it happen. So let's listen. We got a lot of talking here. Tennessee is mediocre. Oh, y'all are roasting the ball. Listen, I don't think Tennessee, I don't know how good they're going to be, but I think they'll be formidable. They have two quarterbacks. You know, I mentioned earlier, it's probably going to be a lot of quarterback competitions within the SEC. I mentioned Alabama. You know, you have the addition of Tyler Buechner. I think that's a quarterback competition right there. I don't know what Georgia's situation is. I think they have a couple quarterbacks. Carson Beck. I think Tennessee's going to have a quarterback competition. Milton, you know, he did have a good bowl game. You know, you can never overlook them. Josh Heupel, that offensive scheme, that offensive system. It's going to be different. Georgia has to go to Knoxville this year. You know, that's going to be different having to travel on the road. So listen, you know, winning in the SEC in the road is going to be tough. So don't sleep on South Carolina. In my opinion, I like to respect all opponents. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee, South Carolina, and Georgia, one of those teams come out the East. So let's stay in the student section. Y'all are going crazy. Everybody's talking about how Georgia schedule is not as strong. I mean, we do need the SEC. Somebody said Florida would beat Georgia also. I don't know about that, Stephen Hicks. I don't know if I see Florida because I don't know. I think Florida, their spring game, I don't think it looked impressive. I don't know. I don't see Florida beat Georgia. I just think the way Kirby, he recruits, his coach, you know, his defense is going to be set. So that's half the battle right there. And so I think I don't see Florida beating. I still see Florida kind of being the fourth wheel out the SEC East. I still think it is three, either between Georgia, South Carolina, or Tennessee. So let's stay in the student section. Georgia fans going crazy. Said Carson Beck for Heisman. I mean, I don't know. I can't see it. Listen, this is what I'm waiting for. Georgia and Bama in the SEC championship. I cannot wait. I want Georgia and Bama. Hopefully Alabama holds their end up. But listen, sneaky team. I think it's going to come down in the SEC West. Bama, LSU. I think LSU is a team that nobody's talking about. They are going to be really good. You get Jaden Daniels coming back for a second year. Brian Kelly coming back for a second year. That's going to be tough. So I think Alabama and LSU getting the SEC in the playoffs. They're the two SEC West teams. I think they're going to dominate the SEC West. And so, listen, don't sleep on LSU. So Alabama's got to handle business versus LSU down in Tuscaloosa this year. Let's rapid fire these comments. Georgia Tech will beat Georgia. I don't know about that. But shouts out to the new coach Brent Key. You know, we find ways to bring it back to Alabama. He was the former offensive line coach at the University of Alabama, and then he went to go to be the offensive line coach at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech got rid of their coach, and now he's the head coach. So I think he's going to get them in the right direction. Yeah, Cindy Reed Saban is getting back the bully ball. That's what I'm saying. He's getting back. Listen, and to our quarterback competition, I know we mentioned the quarterbacks. I think we're going to be okay. We don't need the quarterback to be – we have so much talent. The only thing we need you to do is drive drive the machine, you know, and navigate it and lead it in the right way and get us to win. You know, no hiccups, no going off road. So, man, y'all are going in on Georgia fans. Icebox says, if you have a 12-team playoffs, how does that work? 6-3. I think the first 4 teams get buys, and I think 5 through 12. I think those teams kind of play each other, and then those after the buys, those teams play the top 4 seeds. But I'm interested to see, is it going to be the 5 through 12 games? Is it going to be on schools' campuses, or is it going to be like at neutral sites? Is it going to be like in Atlanta or whatever? I think it's going to be home and home, so it's going to be interesting. So 12-team playoffs. 6-0 says our QB room will be okay. Protect Alabama has a monstrous offensive line. Yeah, I think it starts up front with our offensive line. LSU is legit. Listen, they're going to be good. I'm telling you, the SEC West. Alabama usually is really, when Alabama's good and LSU's good, it usually helps the SEC West, and that helps Alabama become even more dominant, hopefully win a national championship. So let's keep it going. But Dog fans, y'all are in here. I don't know anything about the Georgia fans, but it's all about Alabama. So it's all about Alabama. So let's cover. I think we just cover all my topics, but yeah. We talked about the Bama players, Georgia. We talked about the Bryce. I want to talk about this. So I do think there was some disappointments in the draft. Watching the draft, I thought the draft location was cool, but looking at the draft, being in Kansas City, it looked like, I know they broke a record having like 300-some thousand fans out there, but it looked like a lot of fans were just standing there. Like, looked like they didn't have it broke up in different activities. I thought the NFL could have done a better job of having more interactive things out there for the draft for the fans. Because look like, I mean, you're in Kansas City, not like you're in Vegas or like Miami or Atlanta or one of these big, not even Nashville. You know, it looked like they were just standing there. Also, I thought another thing that took a big hit was the S2 test. I mean, news broke about this S2 test, how Bryce was, scored so high, and, just shows about like his processing information. And people were saying, people were knocking CJ Stroud, I guess, for just scoring an 18 on the S2 test and maybe throwing question maybe his processing information. I thought the S2 test kind of took a hit, When CJ Stroud went number 2, I'm like, well, nobody really cares about the S2 test. It's all about what you do on the field. So that was kind of interesting. I mentioned kind of the, Kansas City. It looked like they didn't have a lot of fans were just standing there if they weren't close to the stage. Yeah, I thought the S2 test took a hit. And I do want to talk about this real quick. So having a lot of the draft rookies out there, congratulations, you made it to the NFL, you got drafted. Now's the time to work. You talk to Bryce Young, talk about him saying, I'm ready to go to work. Stay focused, work on your game. Now you're your own boss right now. You have to be your own CEO. You have to have some business maturity, be your own CEO. Being in the St. Louis Rams organization, being in the NFL, I know you have to be business savvy. So I wanted to shout that out. Get proper nutrition, stay at the facility. You can't get in trouble if you stay at the facility. Stay focused. That way you keep the main thing, because the NFL is a business. It's all about the business. So you have to be the CEO of your own body, take care of your body, keep the main thing, and just have great careers. And so that's what I want to end on. But that's Football University. Shouts out to everybody in the student section, Cindy Reed, Six Soul, the Georgia fans, Jeff Stapleton, Gene Stephen Hicks, Icebox, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in next week where we're going to continue to discuss more SEC football talk, more Bama, Georgia, SEC football. We'll make it happen. So y'all stay safe. Have a great day. And I will talk to you next week here at Football University.